محادثات منفردة ومع الوفود، كما تشرفت معالي الوزيرة صباح اليوم الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي.
أنا مش سامعة.
اللقاءات كان التركيز على وحدة المصير.
The focus.
علاقة خاصة وعلى أسس تتعدى الأسس الرسمية.
هو الصوت قطع ليه؟ كان أي صوت يعني كنت سامعة.
لشعورهم المتبادل بهذا الرباط القائم فيما بينهم، وأننا لدينا مسؤولية بأن نرعى هذه العلاقة الخاصة وأن نلبي طموحات شعوبنا وأن نستمر في الارتقاء بالعلاقة وتجاوز التحديات والعمل بكثافة وفقا للمصلحة المشتركة، وفقا للرغبة الشعبية الجارفة، وفقا لشعورنا بهذه العلاقة الخاصة. فكان هناك إرادة سياسية قوية لدى الجانبين بأن نعمل بتنسيق كامل بتواصل مستمر على كافة المستويات في إطار توجيهات القيادة السياسية في البلدين، بأن يكون فيما بيننا هذا التفاعل والتنسيق والتواصل والتفعيل لكافة الآليات القائمة والاتفاقيات التي أبرمناها من أجل فائدة الشعبين ومقاومة المشتركة للتحديات التي تواجهنا. الحقيقة تطرقنا إلى القضايا بعمق وإسهاب، وهذا ما جعلنا نتأخر عليكم وأعتذر على ذلك، ولكن كان من الهام أن نتناول كل هذه.
He dealt with all these issues in the bilateral framework and the regional framework and the international framework, and from these issues were the negotiations of the Renaissance Dam and how to move forward to reach a fair agreement, legal agreement that serves the rights of the three countries in a balanced way, and that leads to the benefit of Africa from the Renaissance Dam in development without leading to damages, to great damages to the countries of Egypt and Sudan. And we will push forward to reach an agreement, because this is the only way to protect the interests of our three nations and to set a framework of cooperation and understanding and move away from tension and confrontation. I welcome the minister, and once again I hope her success, and once again, and there will be continuous communication between both of us, and we will always support this special relationship and the responsibility on our shoulders within the framework of this relationship. In the name of God, the most merciful and compassionate, prayers be upon the Prophet, and I welcome dear sisters and brothers of the Egyptian media, who we are no stranger to, and I'm today honored to stand in front of you as the foreign minister of the Sudan Revolution Nation, and I'm happy with this visit, as my brother and my colleague, Minister Sameh, Shoukry, and I have also met the President in a prolonged meeting, and I am very happy with the vision that the President have expressed surrounding the importance of the Sudanese-Egyptian relationship and the necessity of choosing our words and terminologies, and the importance of the relationship that everybody believes in. And these are real words, and however the relationship have always been restricted to words and terminologies. How can we get out in official institutions to stress the real extended relationship and elevating this relationship to mutual development and strategic relationship that deals with all sides and aspects. And it was an important meeting that included our discussion of our quest in Sudan after the revolution. We are now welcoming the post-peace agreement era to an economic development that started with strong measures and decisions by the peace government, and there is an important Egyptian experiment that we wish to benefit from and learn from. And in this regard, His Excellency and Minister Sameh Shoukry have promised how this experiment is available to the Sudanese technical side to benefit from it according to the Sudanese givens. We have also talked to His Excellency Ali that we are looking forward to his coming visit to Sudan and the joint preparation that all the Sudanese agencies are preparing to in the partners council, all partners of governance from the sovereign leaderships of the council and the government, and all the partners and parties in the peace process are communicating and gathering, and we all are looking forward that the President President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Sudan will set all the meanings to look to that will embody the new horizon, and that the words will really reflect the relationship. As you have referred, Mr. Minister, in our bilateral talk, we spoke about the necessity of joint work and effectuating and putting into effect all the agreements to set a real relationship that we all look forward to, especially because Sudan in the coming period will return to the Paris conference in next May to present itself as a Sudan that looks forward to open relationships with the world, economic relationships. And Egypt have always supported Sudan in all conferences, which is reciprocated by Sudan. How can we achieve a great success in Africa? In the Paris Forum, there is a day specified and allocated for Sudan. How can we improve the economic situation in the entire continent, and how can the equation lead to all our benefit? And as the Minister has referred to, we have spoken about the new developments concerning the Renaissance Dam, and that was always a space of joint work in recent stages, came near to agreements, but it stopped, which led to great dangers that would affect our countries, Egypt and Sudan, and especially due to the previous filling last year of the dam and the great dangers that the two countries might be subjected to the Nile Basin nations after the recent claimed announcement, especially of the way that our brothers in Ethiopia have filled about 13.5 billion cubic square of water that will lead to great damages that threatens 20 million Sudanese of thirst that would lead to death. That's why we called for a fast diplomatic movement to stop these dangers, and we continue communicating with each other to return to the negotiations that would end, as my brother Mr. Minster has said, would end with agreements that win-win agreements that will guarantee development to the Ethiopian nation and also to Egypt and to the nation of Sudan, and that would achieve the cooperation goals of the dam regionally, and to stop any attempts from any side that would make this dam, this strategic and important dam, a gate to strife and tension and conflicts in a continent in which we all work together. We are all Africans, and we all work so that the partnerships in the African continent would succeed and is capable of, and in which the organization of the African Union, we emphasize the necessity that its leadership should lead a four-party initiative to return the negotiations. However, this return to the negotiations cannot be forever. We specified dates because, as you know, the filling will start in July, and they are now preparing for this filling, and we are now all committed to reach an agreement in legal frameworks, clear legal frameworks relating to filling and operation, and the necessity that there would be this equation, this win-win equations. These agreements will be discussed and coordinated among us in an open way between Sudan and Egypt, in a way that achieves the interests of all parties, and we hope in Ethiopia that return to the negotiations seriously so that we all can reach the win-win cooperational agreements that we have agreed upon, and we in consideration to that dam. We also hope to get out from the Arab League meeting with clear visions, and that would lead to our cooperation for the good of the Arab nation and our region. Thank you. أيمن حسني صوت العرب radio. My question to Minister Mariam Sadeq al-Mahdi, Foreign Minister of Sudan, in relating to the stance now standing on the borders of Sudan, especially in the region of Al-Qadarif regional border. The region witnesses fast developments. What is the stance of the Sudan at the moment? Thank you very much. Yes, the stance and the position is fast-paced in Sudan. We say clearly that the border issue relating to the rights of the Sudanese people is known and documented, and it's well known that since the year 1902 there was an agreement based on maps. That's why there was never at any time before after the proclamation by Ethiopia in 1972 of the sovereignty of Sudan on these territories. However, it seems that through the years many Ethiopian farmers entered these Sudanese territories and occupied it and built upon it. This is a reality that we admit, and we are open to an equation that would make this region a mutual cooperation cooperation region. As you know, sir, Sudan has vast territories and lands, and it's one of the less populated countries in the world. And that's why we want to reach a strategic vision of cooperation equations with all our neighbors who have issues in the presence or who needs lands, because this way our lands are getting occupied. We are open to all win-win equations, but after ending the demarcation of our borders, this issue can be solved by all diplomatic means and legal means. This is not an issue, but the biggest danger is related to the Ethiopian party's filling of the dam. We are using all diplomatic means so that things would not reach that extent. Mr. Minister, I welcome you. I'm Sameh Ibrahim from El Shoukry newspaper. Welcome in Egypt. My question is to both ministers. The relations between Egypt and Sudan have been extended through the years and is strategic and are strategic. What happened in the negotiations and discussions on that level relating to the means of boosting relations between the two countries and bilateral cooperation between the two countries in the coming period? The bilateral relations between the two countries focused on a great degree of dialogue individually or in the expanded framework, and we emphasize our responsibility to boost the relation economically and culturally, and we have all the legal frameworks and the political will, so we have to execute and to benefit from the available capabilities according to the agreed upon mechanisms, and to translate these political positive statements into actions and deeds and results, so that the two nations' populations would feel the benefit of communication. Is a very important element, and we agreed on pushing relations forward in a way that would make the two nations feel the effect of the cooperation between the two countries, whether in agriculture or animal wealth or industry or manufacturing. So we would benefit from the integration as a main pillar in this relationship. However, also consultation and coordination and consensus in the political framework. We have an African identity and we have an Arab identity in the African Union and the Arab League. We have the honor of having a unified vision towards achieving stability in our neighboring direct geographical spaces, and boosting cooperation and stability, because if there is no stability, it will be hard for us to pass the stages that we have to surpass in the framework of development and joint efforts, consultations, cooperation, coordination. Political integration is a very important thing, and understanding and mutual interest is always a motivation that makes us have this similar vision and joint vision.
كما تفضل معالي الوزير
As the Minister have said,
وقت المباحثات على
the
المستوى المنفرد والجماعي
majority of the time of the talks have been focused on the bilateral relationships, which has have witnessed so many agreements. We have discussed the reactivation of the agreements and the availability of political will and commitment and the consensus among the visions. This would be a clear fuel that would push it forward towards success and progress. And in this regard, we met today as foreign ministers, and there are technical committees that are moving. However, this aspect will be conducted within the framework of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's visit to Sudan and Dr. Hamdouk's visit to Egypt. This is all amid the real momentum of the agreements that would benefit our nations, and we benefit from the visions, the extended visions relating to the four freedoms and the the borders and trade and industry and culture and education, and also the political dimension. All these factors should be ready to be executed in the coming days. As the Minister have said, this is also within the framework, our regional framework and international framework. How can we support each other to move forward in improving security and efficacy, so that this bilateral relationship between our countries would have a beneficial return on both our countries. Anis from Al Masri اليوم. My question to Mr. Sameh Shoukry and Mr. Mariam. The case of the Renaissance Dam is a very important case. I would like to know the Egyptian vision, or the two visions, and the axis of movement, joint movement between the two countries towards Ethiopia's holding on to the second filling of the dam and not waiting for reaching a legal binding agreement towards the operation and filling of the dam. I think there is a joint vision of Egypt and Sudan, because the two countries are near the delta, and we both have discussed negotiations through the previous decades openly regarding taking into consideration the rights and the interests of the three countries. And now we come to a stage that is very important after these prolonged tours, to a point that we have that everybody should take into consideration in regard to the negotiation process between Egypt and Sudan, and the great dangers that could result from the unilateral activities without reaching an agreement of any policy. Any de facto policy would get out of the positive policy track, and and gets out of the well-known scope in solving problems and reaching understanding through a legal agreement, a just agreement that takes into consideration the interests of the three countries and removes any tension. And unfortunately, the most recent negotiation path led by the presidency of the African Union was stumbled, and the negotiations stopped, and the Sudanese party proposed a vision of resumption and establishing a four-party meeting presided by the Democratic Republic of Congo, so that the President Tshisekedi of Congo would bear the responsibility springing from his awareness of its importance to achieve stability in the African continent and reaching suitable solutions that would take into consideration the three countries' interests. We support this vision and we expressed this publicly, and we communicated with the parties to urge it to come forward and express its will to engage. And there are parties like the United States who engaged before and continued through the negotiation period, in the African negotiation period with the European Union, and we add to it the United Nations and also the European Union and the African Union. Definitely the role that would be played by this four-party meeting through proposing solutions to some of the points of differences is important. Also to be a witness of the positions and stances of all parties, and to assess these stances. We have always expressed our political readiness and will when we signed the agreement of Washington that included all the necessary elements to tackle this issue justly and fairly and legally. And also on the other side, the Ethiopian party should express this will that has not yet been expressed. The negotiations should end at some point, and no unilateral measures should be taken, and no de facto policy should be used, and because this would expose some nations to existential crises and dangers. When we speak about Egypt, we will spare no efforts, and we will bear the responsibility of protecting the Egyptian people's interests and its capabilities. Thank you, Mr. Minister. As you said, the Renaissance Dam, the joint mission embarks from the win-win equation and the right of the Ethiopian people and the Egyptian people and the Sudanese people's right to benefit from this river with a legal reference known in international law that prevents any party from incursion into the security and the interests of the other parties. This is a process that we all come out of and embark from. That's why it was not hard for us to reach an agreement that was held in Washington last year, but for political reasons at that time, we thought in Sudan that for political reasons, the Ethiopian side have stopped, and we in Sudan understood that. However, unfortunately, it was clear through what happened last year, in the middle of last year, until the moment that there was non-presence of a political will and internal problems and other things that led to the filling unilaterally of the dam last year. And now the filling last year almost led to great crises in Sudan. However, we were able to to overcome these dangers through the usage of the Roseres Dam. However, today the announcement of 13.5 billion is a great danger and expresses a rejection of partnership and mutual work. However, despite this, we accepted the Ethiopian demands so that of the African Union's role, however, to play a role. However, because of the slowness that happened, almost led to Sudan getting into a crisis security-wise and politically wise. That's why now the African Union there is an initiative led by the African Union that in which the observers will transform from being who Minister Sameh have referred to, the presidency of the African Union and the observation of the United States and the United Nations and the European Union will transform into members. We are very happy with the understanding of our brothers here in Egypt of this initiative, and we have talked to several parties to be part of this initiative. However, this movement that we hope would happen rapidly cannot develop endlessly. There should be a time limit to another movement, because as we have said before, the filling will start in July, and this will take things in the region to a turn that nobody wishes to think about. This consensus upon the four-party mechanism and the time limit will be accompanied by expanded diplomatic work that will explain the danger of the non-diplomatic movement of convincing the Ethiopian side of returning to negotiations and stopping any unilateral activities, because that would threaten the interests of the other nations, especially in Sudan. It will push to a great thirst and lack of water that threatens the security of the population. We also agreed upon open coordination that makes Ethiopia, the third party, join us, because the danger of the method that happened before on the part of the Ethiopian side to envision any proximity between the Sudanese side and Egypt that are constantly threatened by unilateral activity and measures as a way of Arab calling without an African element. This turn is very dangerous and threatens the safety of many Arab people. 80% of the Arab people are Africans and living in Africa. Any attempt to send away Arabs from Africa or make them not a part of Africa is a very dangerous situation. We took into consideration many times the anger of the Ethiopian side in the 1959 agreement. They were not a party, but now we seek reaching win-win equations, but we cannot be silent about the agreements that happened last year and that was announced this year of the second filling. That's why we very transparently and very credentially seek now that Ethiopia stops this unilateral activity, because it would take the entire region to a stage that nobody wishes to head to, because now we have governments that have announced and that are committed to peaceful work and development work to its nations and reaching out to its neighbors, and is very keen on not intervening into the affairs of its neighbors and other countries. This is the new thing in this new reality that we work to establishing strong organizations like the African Union. We try to achieve this without letting go of our sovereignty or threatening the security of our nation. We have formulated a joint statement of our discussions and talks that will be distributed upon you now, and I wish the minister all success in fulfilling her responsibility. She has great expertise, and I hope this would be a good era for Egypt and Sudan.